Why Coco Gauff's secret Texas trip left millions heartbroken. The life-changing decision behind the tears. It started with a headline buried in local news feeds. Devastating floods had struck parts of Texas. Streets became rivers, homes disappeared, and countless families faced unimaginable loss. For most, it was a distant tragedy, an event to sympathize with, perhaps donate to, and then continue scrolling. But for Coco Gauff, the news struck differently. Images of children stranded on rooftops, clutching remnants of their lives, stayed in her mind long after practice sessions ended. Among them was a single photograph that refused to let her sleep. A 6-year-old girl, soaked and trembling, clutching a stuffed toy, eyes wide but silently carrying the weight of loss beyond her years. Coco didn't react with a simple post or a charitable donation. Something deeper stirred, a call to action that would change lives, including her own, the decision to go private. Unlike the usual spectacle surrounding top athletes, Coco's response was deliberate and intimate. She decided to travel to Texas privately, avoiding cameras, press, and social media attention. The goal was simple: to witness, understand, and act, not to perform for applause. Flying under the radar, Coco arrived in one of the hardest-hit areas. Volunteers at shelters barely recognized her, assuming she was part of an aid team. She walked through chaos, helping where she could, talking to displaced families, and quietly observing the resilience of children who had faced devastation far too early in life. It was during these moments, away from the public eye, that Coco's life, and the life of a particular little girl, would forever intertwine. Meeting the child who would change everything. At a small, crowded shelter, Coco found her. The 6-year-old girl had survived the floods but lost her home, her school, and tragically her parents. In a world that stripped her of safety, she now faced uncertainty about her very future. Coco approached her gently, kneeling down to meet her at eye level. There was no fanfare, no cameras, just a simple introduction, and a question that mattered more than anything else. What do you need to feel safe? The child's reply was quiet, almost hesitant. Someone to stay. That single line echoed in Coco's heart. It was a request, not for toys or clothes, but for presence, protection, and love, a life-altering choice. Over the following days, Coco worked quietly with child welfare authorities, foster agencies, and local volunteers. She arranged temporary care, educational support, and counseling. But as she spent more time with the child, something remarkable happened. Coco realized she could not walk away. The decision that followed stunned everyone when it finally came. Coco Gauff would adopt the girl. It was not a gesture for headlines or social media accolades. It was a lifelong commitment, born of empathy, courage, and a deep sense of responsibility. I thought I was helping her survive, Coco later said privately. But she's helping me see the world differently. The emotional fallout, the announcement eventually leaked to public, and reactions were swift and overwhelming. Millions of fans, journalists, and commentators were moved, but also heartbroken. Why heartbroken? Because Coco had made this decision privately. The world had no warning. There were no photos, no public appearances, no stage press events. Millions of people who had followed her career, cheered her victories, and celebrated her personality felt excluded from witnessing this profoundly human act. Yet those closest to Coco knew the truth. Her choice was never about the world. It was about the child, the private struggle. Adoption at any age is monumental. Adoption as a public figure, still in the prime of a burgeoning career, is life-altering in ways most cannot imagine. Coco faced adjusting training and travel schedules around a child's needs, ensuring emotional stability for a young girl traumatized by natural disaster, protecting privacy while navigating intense public scrutiny. Coco's decision demanded sacrifice, patience, and courage. Many nights, she lay awake, wondering if she could balance tennis at the highest level of motherhood, all while ensuring the child felt safe, loved, and normal. Behind the tears, why millions connected? The Heartbreak fans felt was not sorrow for Coco. It was a reflection of the intimacy they craved with someone they admired. They understood. She made a personal, irreversible choice that could not be shared in real time. Fans grieved the fleeting distance between public persona and private life. At the same time, millions were inspired. They saw that real heroism does not always happen under cameras, on court, or in front of cheering crowds. Real heroism happens in quiet rooms, in the decisions we make when no one is watching. Coco's act reminded the world that greatness is not just measured by trophies, rankings, or prize money, but by heart, empathy, and courage, building a new life. After adoption, Coco and the child began crafting a new life together. Education, private tutoring, and enrollment in a school near Coco's training base ensured continuity and care. Healthcare, physical and mental health support became top priorities, addressing trauma from both the flood and parental loss. Daily life, routine became sacred. Breakfast together, school, practice sessions, quiet evenings, and shared laughter. The young girl, once haunted by loss, began to smile freely again. And Coco, balancing the pressures of global fame, discovered a new dimension of purpose and joy. Ripple effects around the world. Coco's private act of adoption resonated far beyond her immediate circle. Charities and relief organizations saw a surge in donations and volunteer interest. Foster care programs experienced increased inquiries. Athletes and public figures worldwide were inspired to leverage their platforms for meaningful, tangible impact. Her story sparked discussions about humanity, responsibility, and the invisible acts of heroism that change lives quietly. Facing criticism with grace. Not everyone responded with praise. Critics questioned her age, the ability to juggle career and adoption, and even motives. Coco's response was not defensive. She allowed her actions to speak louder than words. By prioritizing her child's well-being over public opinion, she demonstrated that integrity is about choices, not approval. A new perspective on fame and responsibility. Coco's secret trip to Texas illuminated a crucial lesson about fame. The power it brings is both a privilege and a responsibility. While millions followed her victories on court, her greatest triumph may have come off court, in a small Texas shelter. But the life-changing decision she made in Texas redefines her legacy. It reminds the world that the heart is mightier than any trophy, that one courageous choice can ripple far beyond the moment, and that true heroism often exists in the quiet, unseen corners of life. The tears millions shed over her secret trip were not just for what they missed. They were for what they learned about humanity, compassion, and the incredible courage of one young woman who refused to ignore a child in need. Coco Gauff's story proves this. The greatest victories are not always measured in points or matches, but in the lives we save, the love we give, and the hope we create. Sparkling Heart. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Till next time.